webinar. Let's push through this. For the Internet Marketing Specialist designation, we're going to teach you how you can get ahead of your competition and earn your Internet Marketing Specialist designation. If you are interested in earning your Internet Marketing Specialist designation, just visit imsd.net. Today we've got a special promotional code for you, which is TWEET. It'll give you the opportunity to save money off the regular price of the program and break it down to 3 equal payments for you. So you don't even have to worry about saying, I don't want to pay all that at once. Give you a chance to jump in the program. Conveniently,
but it's worth it.
Tomorrow's class, we're talking blogging. So that's one that's probably one you guys are all handles on here, being part of the ActiveRain University. You need a geeky shirt? Contact Chris. Chris, they need a geeky shirt. Today, our topic is tweet. And what the heck do I mean by that? Well, we all have a general idea what anybody would mean when they say that. So what did we do? We went out and we found the one and only. She says to me, Chad, you know, I'm not just a Twitter person, yet, boy, does everybody want to talk to her about Twitter when the time comes. You've heard her voice already. Let me actually introduce her to you. Maya, say hello to the gang.
Hello, gang.
There you go. Maya, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how long you've been doing it, where you are in the country if they wanted to find you for a referral, and just why you're the person we've got on this call.
Well, first of all, I am a realtor based in Wilmington, Delaware, and my team, I've got 2 agents on my team right now, adding another one, and we actually cover the whole state of Delaware. We have a beach specialist who actually used to be the real estate commissioner for Delaware. I also am licensed in Pennsylvania and serve most of Chester County, parts of Delaware County, some of the mainline areas outside of Philadelphia. So we have a pretty decent service area, but if we're not an expert, we can send you to somebody who is. I will say I've been using social media probably since 1981 when we got our first modem, and my brother and I started using bulletin board systems and things like that. So the evolution of social media from a bulletin board system where you log on at 300 baud and post a message and wait 3 days for somebody to reply, to chat rooms, and I skipped the whole IRC thing. I was very active on Usenet and some other areas. I skipped, what else did I skip? Oh, I skipped AOL, sorry. You know, a snob about that. And then more or less completely disconnected from high tech in 02, 03. I had been a web developer and designer. I started doing that in 95 in the Seattle area, east side of Lake Washington, and worked for Windermere out there for a little while, then worked for the Northwest Multiple, and then came to Delaware and was licensed here in 01. So I think 08 or so, I started sort of flirting with social media and essentially Twitter when I was at an event in New York, and a friend of mine was busy typing in his BlackBerry, and I'm like, what the heck are you doing? And he's on Twitter, ESD714, Ethan Dreilinger. He was the CBS mobile producer at the time in New York. So he introduced me to it, and so was the addiction. One of my first friends was actually Mariana Wagner, and that would be Mizzle on Twitter. And I just started building a local community, and Delaware is a small state, small town, so we sort of all found each other, a small group of us, and we created Del Tweet. We created some social media networks here, and we've all been working together. So I was fortunate enough to be in it early enough that I was easily able to make the connections, and that's what sort of grew into it. So it was, a lot of it for me was discovery in how to work social media for real estate, but it applies to any sole proprietor or small business. So, you know, and I've taken it from there. So I've taught a lot of agents how to do it successfully, but, you know, Twitter's not for everybody, but it is one of the tools you want to use, and it's more of a distribution point sort of a lot of people refer to as the hub and spoke model. So, your hub being your site or your blog, and this being one of the points to use to sort of direct people back to it. But there's a lot of value in Twitter in using proper keywords to build SEO. So
perfect. Wow, that was a
oh yeah, and we found an
introduction
with Leslie Lambert and Diane Gorcio. So
okay, so we will answer that question for you as we get going on this. All right, so we're talking about Twitter today, Maya. Tell us, quickly, just give us an overview of what Twitter is in regards to comparison with all the other social medias that are out there. I mean, what's the difference? We know Facebook, maybe we know Google+. We've all heard Twitter. What's the difference, Twitter from Facebook, in 2 sentences or less?
Twitter is essentially a cocktail party. It's just a very large chat, and the rule is there really are no rules other than social etiquette and jump into any conversation you want to have.
Okay, so there we go. Think of it like a cocktail party. All right, so we were talking earlier, Maya, you and I, we were talking about different social networks that are out there. Now, 84% of real estate professionals are using social media, and we know that number is climbing every day because the ones that aren't are getting out of the business. They're not succeeding. I have a question for everybody out there before we jump into this. You can see we've got comfortable, somewhat comfortable, uncomfortable, and don't use social media on the grid. Type in for us, how comfortable are you using social media right now? Where would you actually fall on this pie chart? And anybody who types in don't use social media, why are you on the call? That doesn't really make sense to me. Okay, so we've got a lot of somewhat comfortables. We've got a few comfortables. We've even got a few uncomfortables. So good for you to be able to push yourself, jump into it, and become part of this. I got Victor's 200% comfortable with it. So Victor, nice. I like that. That's good.
Well,
all right. So
can I add something on the whole comfort issue? The key is that nobody's comfortable. Nobody's comfortable with anything that's unfamiliar and foreign, and it's just a matter of practice and technique and observation. So you'll get there. Be confident that you'll get there.
All right, so excellent. Well said, Maya. Now you guys you can also see here which social networks you're really using. So I'm going to ask a few questions because I really just want to get a feel for who we've got on the audience. The first one, how many of you are currently on Facebook? How many are currently on Facebook? Okay. Facebook, yes, me, yes, right now, actually. Get off Facebook and get over here with us. It went by so fast, I don't even know who that was, but get off Facebook or I'll come back. All right, let's skip down and look farther down on this list. How many of you are using LinkedIn or are on LinkedIn at least, whether you know how to use it or not? Okay, a lot of yeses, yes, somewhat,
I'm
not
going
using
yes,
it.
both of them.
Yeah, a lot of stuff coming on LinkedIn. All right, let's skip another one here and talk YouTube. Anybody here on YouTube got your own YouTube channel?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, no, yes. We're there. Yes, no. Okay, so we're getting a lot of good information. Good. All right. A lot of people have accounts. They're just not using them yet. I'm getting a lot of that. Now, all right, let's jump back up here, and I'm going to use an evil word. Who's using WordPress? Who on the ActiveRain University webinar is using WordPress? Setting it up now. No, I have an account, but I've never used it. Go ActiveRain. Yes, some people. Yes, just don't tell Bob. Often. Okay. All right. So let's now ask you about Twitter. How many of you are currently on Twitter, and how many of you are not on Twitter at the moment? I just want to have an idea of where our crowd is so we go the right direction. Okay, yes, on, not using it, yes, absolutely.
Well, there's a lot of abandoned accounts. A better question might be who's actually using it.
That's excellent. Yes.
Yeah, if your last post was in 2009, you don't count.
I used it for fantasy football. That's excellent. There's nothing wrong with WordPress. We're just on the ActiveRain University. All right, so Maya, what would you like to add to the different social networks and showing that that Twitter's 50% of them are actually using Twitter according to this study.
Well, you know, I would wonder how many of that 50% are actually actively using it versus have an account, because, you know, it might be semantics, but that's a very different question than, yes, my name is reserved. But I think it would be interesting to see this updated now with Google+, because I've seen a significant decline in interaction on Twitter amongst the sort of almost more technorati, Twitterati crowd since Google Plus came out. But I don't personally, I mean, Google Plus is great, but I still think that Twitter is the place to be because it is indexed and because it is starting to become mainstream. Google Plus isn't already, so I wouldn't necessarily be focusing my efforts over there. But I think that most people are creating their LinkedIn accounts, their Facebook accounts, and Twitter accounts, whether or not they're connecting them and using them. Agents also need to be blogging. ActiveRain, that's where you should be, and you can always add in peripheral blog sites. But YouTube is powerful. So, you know, I think all of these things feed back to Twitter. Twitter is the mouthpiece for every other social platform.
Okay.
So you know, that's why it's essential, and it's public, it's searchable, anybody can find you. Facebook is invitation, friend only, you have to be connected. LinkedIn, same thing. You know, Twitter is for everybody and anybody unless you have a protected account, and I don't know why as an agent you would have a protected account.
Okay, so that's good point right there. Now I got a question here. Rich has asked, you know, Maya, in your opinion, what's considered active? Is that like 10 tweets per day? Is that 100 tweets per day? Is that every day at least once? What's considered active on Twitter to you?
Well, you know, it depends on the individual, but if you're a real estate agent, your job is to sell houses. Your job is not to be sitting on social media all day. So time management is essential. You know, using some of the tools that we'll talk about later, you can schedule some information and tweets so that you're sort of present. But, you know, I recommend, you know, 30 minutes twice a day. I say 30 by 2 is the rule. You know, find 30 minutes in the morning while you're having your coffee, checking the news, whatever the case may be, before you start your prospecting and your calls and things, to get in there, to reply to people, to engage with people, and I'm talking purely Twitter here right now, to have conversations. Because if you're not active, if you're not having a conversation and finding people to connect to, then you're going to fail. So, you know, maybe it's 25, 30 tweets in a conversational tone in the morning, and then you come back in the evening and you see who's responded during the day. Because, you know, Twitter doesn't require an immediate response most of the time. We'll talk about searches and when you need to be watching it and alerts and things like that later. But, you know, it's all what works for you. If you're trying to establish yourself, you're going to want to spend a little more time searching, engaging, and interacting and providing information of value. But once you've established yourself in your sort of local area, then maintenance is key. So, you know, you can kind of pull back after you've built it. So, I mean, you know, it can be 10 for somebody. I used to have a voracious velocity and go over 100 sometimes in some days. But lately, you know, the market has been so busy, and I'm working on something I call Project Influencer, where I'm trying to prove the value of Twitter and the platforms, mostly Twitter, in my business model. So that I've kind of not really been out there as much as I should be.
Okay, and I'm getting a lot of people who are, you know, you don't need to be on Twitter as much as Maya might be. Maya is obviously taken Twitter to a different level, everybody. I'm getting a lot of people out there saying, wow, an hour a day.
No, I'm not saying an hour a day on Twitter, though. I'm saying 30 minutes twice a day on all of your social platforms. 15 of that might be blogging. 5 of it might be for Twitter. You know, it's not at all an hour a day on Twitter. You know, Twitter's the type of thing, too, that you can just check in 5 minutes while you're waiting for a client at a house, or while you're waiting for somebody at a closing. You know, whatever the case may be, you can just jump onto your mobile device, check, and pop back out.
There you go. So allowing Maya to clarify that, I was going to say I would take my hour And I would do 3 times a day, 20 minutes each time. I'm in, I'm out, for following up on that. Now, if you've already got that time put in your calendar, fantastic. If you don't have that time put into your calendar, you should. One of the nice things is, as you say, Maya, it's easy to check Twitter on your mobile phone. So you could be sitting at a red light, you could check if there was anything. You could be waiting on your lunch from a waiter or at the drive-thru, depending what your day's looking like. It's a great time to just jump in, be able to check, leave a comment, and run. Now, Maya, how do you use Twitter? I mean, we're real estate agents, most of us. There are people on this call who are not real estate agents. They'll have to, when we say the word house, they might have to think what applies to their business, for example. But how do you actually use Twitter to generate business and not just be someone playing on Twitter about what your dog did that afternoon?
Well, you know, if you're talking about what your dog did that afternoon, you're going to connect with other people that are interested in their dogs, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Essentially, first, you want to look at Twitter as sort of the new BNI group, and forget social media, call it social networking, because it's prospecting. It's a new way to make a connection and meet people that could be clients by showing, demonstrating, and creating your expertise on, on your ActiveRain blog, on Facebook or your Facebook page and things like that, and then promoting it on Twitter as the mouthpiece or megaphone, whatever the case may be. You're going to eventually draw local people or people that are looking for your area, because now remember, it is all indexed by the search engines. So the spiders are crawling, and if you set up Google alerts for your Twitter name and your personal name, you're going to see those things. Sometimes they get indexed in 30 seconds. So if you're smart and you're using a lot of rich keywords for your area, neighborhoods, cities, things of interest that you know that people are searching for when they're looking for real estate, when they go to do those real estate searches on Google or any of the other sites, you're going to come up because this is fresh content and that ranks higher. So by having a good stream of information, by sharing statistics, by having things on your blog talking about market conditions and putting it out there, and finding if there are maybe local hashtags, and we'll talk about those funny little symbols later, that can help you to channel your efforts and direct it. I mean, you're not looking to necessarily connect with somebody in Japan. You're looking to connect with people in your local marketplace. Yes, it's good to connect with other agents for referrals, or if you get large enough in the space. I get a lot of people from around the country and the world asking me questions about real estate, asking me to help them find agents. So, it definitely, for me, Twitter has paid many times over. So, you just have to it's understanding that it is social networking. It is a BNI group. It is the Chamber of Commerce. It is just finding those local community leaders, or even once you figure it out, taking it to them, taking it to the local businesses, and establishing relationships with those people, because you build a sense of community when you connect to your local people, and there's almost a sense of obligation between those people in your network, so that I know if I check in on, Foursquare at an Italian restaurant that's not Bella Vista, that I know Candace at Bella Vista is watching my stream. So I feel obligated when I go out, like I did last night. I went to Candace's place and we brought dinner in, rather than a place that we used to go. Because, at the same time, if somebody says real estate to her, she's going to come to me first. So it's really about positioning, and a new agent can use this really well to establish themselves as an expert, because, when I was just in New York for the Riz Media event, it was interesting to talk to some local agents there, and they were talking how some people would focus on specific elementary schools and tracks, but they're not in the social spaces. They're just doing it in person, face-to-face. Well, if your prime buyer is a 29-year-old single female, for them coming out of the Upper East Side of Manhattan looking to move to Larchmont, they're not going to be hanging out at the PTA meeting. They're going to be on Google. So if you're the one that's out there with the most information, even if you got your license 2 weeks ago, who's going to look like the expert? So it's a way to help establish yourself as the area expert. I mean, perception is reality on Twitter.
Right. So Maya,
sorry, that was a lot.
I'm going to call you out on something. We were talking about this just before the call, of course. We need to have a username on Twitter. Now, mine is pretty easy, and it's pretty easy for anyone to find me. I went out and I captured my name. So on Twitter, I'm Chad Himes. Now, you're this Maya RE guru, yet what would you teach somebody or the people on the call right now if they're just getting started, or they can have the opportunity to change their username because they came up with some crazy username possibly? How would you pick the proper Twitter handle? Should you look for your name, or should you be looking for something that's branding somehow?
Well, I mean, your name is your brand, and that's the thing. You don't want to do anything other than your name if you can. And me and what I do is very different than just the average agent, because I'm also doing a lot of social media training and education throughout the industry, and also consulting beyond our industry. So, I started out as Maya 311, and I thought, well, nobody knows what the heck that, Maya 311. Well, you like the band, whatever the case may be. 311 was my birthday. So I thought, this doesn't
nice
tell
shameless
anybody.
plug for the birthday cards, though.
Well,
that was nicely done, Maya.
Not so much, but I just didn't want people to be like, oh my gosh, she really likes the band 311. Yeah, they're cool, but, that's not what I named myself for. But what I essentially thought was, people don't know what I do with my name. And so I started thinking, okay, Maya, real estate, what do I do? How do I indicate it? I can't say Delaware because I also do Pennsylvania. So the thought process in branding kind of was what I started stepping through, and this was in 09 or 08 when I changed it. So ideally, I would have just been Maya Paveza. And what happened to me was that a friend of mine's like, well, you're a real estate guru, like everything about real estate, you should do that. And I was like, oh, okay, I like that. That's kind of fun. So I get lots of junk about it because people are like, what are you, a social media guru? I'm like, no, I'm a real estate guru. So I use that, but that is not what I would recommend to anyone. I think that you need to use your name. Branding is essential, and before you step into these platforms, you want to connect them all. What you're using on ActiveRain, what you're using on Facebook on your business page. You want everything to sort of have the consistency, because if someone's searching for you on Google, if someone's looking at you and found you as an agent and they're considering working with you, they're going to Google you, they're going to put you into whatever search engine, Yahoo, and they're not going to connect your Twitter information with you if you're using some, XYZ sells PDQ. It's not going to help you in building your reputation and credibility. So get your name, but you also don't want, some of us have odd names, maybe a lot of consonants in a row, or names that are common and are harder to get, in which case you want to make it as simple as possible. Try not to use underscores. Try to use logical number sequences. People are saying, like, what about my name, my first name, last name, and 2, 3? Fabulous, or 1 or 2, or throw RE on at the end if you have to, but use your name if at all possible. If you have a very long name, try to find a way to shorten it up, but that will essentially not lose your branding. Because, the reality is that if somebody has to type too long of a Twitter name, they may not communicate with you. And when they retweet you, you lose a lot of real estate with a long name.
Yes, so is there a recommended maximum length of characters that we should be keeping in mind for that retweet purpose?
Well, for a general tweet, the maximum number of characters you should be using is 120, so that someone can easily just hit a retweet and add a comment. When I want to retweet somebody and it gets cut off, or if I have to go back and think too much about editing it, I'm on to the next thing. So, your value here is the power of the retweet, your reach. If I put something out there and someone else who has 20,000 followers retweets me, I'm reaching people that may not have seen me before, plus that amplification helps in the search indexing. So, keep it under 120. If you can keep your name at 10 characters or less. I think that's ideal too.
Okay.
So there's a psychology to all of this stuff too.
For people who already have a username and now they're like, oh no, my username is something crazy and something ridiculous, all they need to do is log in and they can go change their username as long as it's available to what they want to change it to. Because I'm getting a lot of people are asking, can I go change my name? Absolutely you can, as long as it's still available.
Yeah, there's another technique I recommend for that, and that is essentially create a secondary, Gmail, Yahoo, whatever, account for your email, and create a second Twitter account and get the name on that account. And obviously, if you've well established yourself on your existing account, you can kind of essentially do a name swap. I do have Maya Paveza. It is a protected account with very few followers that at some point in time, if I want to flip the name, I can. I can essentially do it very quickly and just move my RE Guru over to the other account. So that's the beauty of Twitter. You're not locked into that username as long as something's available. So if you're not ready to change, or you're not sure you want to, or you don't think you ever will, still try to reserve your name or something as close to it as possible.
Or if you've got some crazy one like Realtor Las Vegas or something like that and you're going to go change your name, just go change your name. Find it available. And like Maya was saying, if you have to add numbers to it, add numbers to it. Just find some numbers that make some sense and make some logic so people can relate that and remember that when it comes to you. So it's not hard
to hold on to Realtor Las Vegas, though, because there's definitely value in names like those. Somebody might turn around and try to offer you money for it.
At some point, you never know what could happen. All right, let's keep
I know people have done it.
Going through this. Now, people that are blogging here through ActiveRain have probably heard Hyperlocal before. Maya, what's your feel on Hyperlocal?
Forget Hyperlocal, people. It's microlocal. Hyperlocal is too high of an overview, essentially. I'm in Wilmington, Delaware. I say, hey, you want to buy a house in Wilmington, Delaware? Well, geographically, that covers a fairly large area. So I think what the basis behind my theory of microlocal, and I think it's more than a theory, I think it's proven at this point, is that when you're looking at people at the hyperlocal or the hyperlocal level, especially if they're searching and they're searching a general area, those are usually buyers that aren't quite sure where they want to be, and they could have an 18-month to 2-year incubation period, or they may not even convert. But when you start to sort of whittle it down to actual geographical areas, like here in Wilmington, I'll use the area of Pipe Creek, which encompasses a number of zip codes, and I'm not sure how many square miles, and quite a few thousand homes in a variety of values. But if someone is looking at Pipe Creek, I know that at that point they're a little more familiar with the geographical area and therefore are either more educated, live here, or are specifically targeting that. But you take it to the next step, which is within most geographical areas or communities with sort of those larger names, you talk about Seattle, you've got sort of like, Green Lake or something, or Queen Anne. And, within that there might be different neighborhoods. I mean, Delaware's the land of the subdivision. So maybe you target 4 or 5 different neighborhoods. We've got neighborhoods that have 160 houses and up to 500 or 600 houses. But if you start building your expertise and your prominence in social on that micro-local level, those people that are going to find you are going to be buyers who are either watching a specific neighborhood waiting for a house to come on, homeowners and potential sellers in those neighborhoods watching their market. So you're sort of taking it to your A buyer, the people that, or seller, that are really ready to go, and you sort of incorporate that in all of your social platforms, and you also don't forget your phone calls around open houses, around new listings, and mailers, and all of the classic things that we also do in prospecting. So, it's more of a directed approach than just trying to service too large of an area, because everyone is doing that. And it's also the sort of the long tail theory, because you're getting down the long tail searches, your keywords are going to cost less, they're cost less. So sorry, I go on slow.
I want to jump in here, Maya, before I respond to anything you were saying, and I think that a lot of people out there are thinking micro-local, that's awesome, and that's probably going to catch on now, and we'll all attribute it to you forever. I want to jump in and make it very clear. Neither Maya nor I were advising anybody to break any rules and any laws. We were just saying Realtor Las Vegas because that's what just came to mind. We understand you shouldn't be using the term realtor in your Twitter handle without following all of the NAR rules. I just want to make sure everybody out there is very clear because I've gotten a bunch of people that are commenting in and making sure that that I make this very clear. I just want you to understand, Maya and I are not encouraging you to break any rules, laws, violating anything. We were just talking and giving
Throw up my slide about the first thing that we do before you engage, and that is to keep the code of ethics at top of mind, license laws, and federal fair housing. Do not ever, you're always a realtor, you're always a real estate agent at all times. You need to watch anything you say, because the second you put it out there on Twitter, it is there forever.
There you go. Now,
and
one of the
I'm a member of the Professional Standards Committee, so I have to.
One of the websites I want to let everybody know, one of our regulars here jumped in and asked me to remind him what it was. So I'm going to share it with everybody quickly, and it's namecheck.com, and that's spelled Namechk. It's namecheck.com. If you go there and put in your username, you'll see every social media platform that username is available and taken on. That way, if you're attempting to change over your Twitter handle, maybe you want to check because maybe it's not available on Facebook or maybe it's not available in other places. So watch for that and make sure you're paying attention to it. All right, let's keep moving along on this. Maya, we just talked about what to do first with the code of ethics. What about the rules of engagement? There's etiquette on Facebook. There's etiquette in LinkedIn. What are some of that etiquette for Twitter, and what are the rules of engagement?
The first rule would probably be that don't ever retweet a link unless you've actually looked at it yourself. And try not to be, spammy. Respect people's space and just, retweet, credit things to the people that you have perhaps read good information from. So, when you promote other people, they will in turn promote you. So really it's just about being respectful. Treat others the way that you would want to be treated, the golden rules, more or less.
Okay, so keep that in mind. How you want to be treated, you should be treating people as well. Now, let's say I know the rules of engagement and I'm ready to engage. Captain Picard always used to tell us, engage. So what do we do when we are ready to engage? What do we actually do then? How do we jump in and start engaging?
Well, the Twitter search is actually a very powerful tool for that. I think that, before you do engage, I'm assuming that someone has spent some time, and you can use the search.twitter.com and use the advanced search even to target by zip codes and radiuses and miles around it to find people in your local spaces. And, create a list of those people or a search if you're using one of the variety of social platforms, and monitor it and watch for people in your local area and jump into a conversation. If you see some people having a conversation, if something catches your eye, just jump in. It's not considered rude at all. They wouldn't be having this public conversation with any other expectation. I mean, it's fairly exhibitionist and voyeuristic in general. So don't be afraid. Just try to research. If you see a conversation going on, or before you ask a question, try to see if you can't follow that conversation stream back so that you're not asking a question that's already been answered. But, the worst thing that happens is somebody may not see your message. And don't take for granted that when you send an @reply to someone, which is a message directly to them, that they are going to receive it. There are no guaranteed deliveries, and direct messages or private messages on Twitter, you should assume, could potentially be public, so don't use Twitter as a reliable source for a private conversation. So starting with search.twitter.com, you can search for people, you can search for topics, You know, if you're a dog breeder, try to find other dog breeders in your local area. You know, sort of find passionate ways to connect with people and that you can be the expert. And just jump into any old conversation. Don't be afraid. You know, it's like swimming. You watch people and it looks really easy, but if you haven't taken any swimming lessons and you jump in, you're going to drown, and that's not a very positive psychological experience. So the same is true for Twitter. Spend as much time as you want lurking and slowly engage when you're comfortable and ask questions. It's totally fine to not know anything and ask people. If you see somebody doing it well, reach out to them and ask them for help. Most people are very willing to.
So remember, it's a cocktail party is how Maya described it all the way at the beginning. If you were at a cocktail party and you heard the people standing over at the bar beside you or the table over there or by the buffet table while they were grabbing food talking about a movie that you had just seen or asking about real estate or talking about something that you knew about, your sports team, whatever your topic of interest might be, you would just speak up. So do the same thing. So Maya, you mentioned this. How would you jump in? Would you just start mentioning the people, and we'll talk about how to mention someone specific, but how would you actually jump in to a topic? Just start talking and people will either ignore you or accept you?
Absolutely. I mean, just like a cocktail party. You know, we as real estate professionals or in any industry, if you're at a cocktail party walking through a room and you overhear someone talking about real estate, I'm going to assume you're going to find some way to get into that conversation. So jumping in and saying, hey, so-and-so, yeah, I work in that area. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer it. Or, you know, wow, our market's been really good. Or I love that part of the town. Or I used to live in that part of the country. You know, just find some way to connect in the conversation and, you know, just kind of keep going. If they ignore you, then move on to the next thing. If they don't respond immediately, you know, they may not have seen you. They may come back to you a few hours later and say, hey, yeah, you're right. That's great. And you start another conversation. So it's just try to remember the cocktail party analogy.
It's a great analogy. We love using that one. So let's talk now. We're ready to jump in, Maya. We found our username. We're set up with all of that. We understand the rules of engagement, and we'll go over some of those again for you because some of you have been asking a few of them. How do we find people? And you mentioned to search for them and things like that. And then what's the best way to start a following? You have a following that, I mean, a lot of people I think here would envy. They would want to be to a point where there's that many people listening to what they have to say, if those people are actually really listening. What's the best way for someone who's brand new at it or really just going to finally take hold of this to start their following and build this mass of people listening to them?
That's a great question. That's a really good question, Chad. I think that the search.twitter.com is the place to start because if you click on the advanced search on the page and scroll down on that, you can get the zip code-based search. So if you have a primary zip code in your marketplace that you're very active in or areas that you want to expand to, just start searching for people in those areas. Now, you're gonna have to invest more than 10 minutes twice a day to initially build the people that you're following. And you're going to follow people. They may not follow you back, but the rule is if I follow you, you should follow me back unless I'm a spam bot.
Say that again. Say that again for everybody.
If I follow you, you should follow me back. It's one of the rules of engagement. It's sort of the courtesy of the space. You know, a lot of people say quantity doesn't matter, and it really shouldn't. But in the decision to follow someone, how many tweets you have put out there and how many followers you have is part of the decision that someone is making and whether or not they want to engage with you. So making sure that you have at least been trying to have conversations and putting messages of relevance out there. Don't just tweet your listings because nobody is going to want to have a conversation with somebody who is only broadcasting and not engaging. So, you know, make sure that you're not that guy. Have the conversation. It's a giant instant messenger. It's a giant chat room, essentially. So find the local people. Find relevant local people, too. You don't necessarily want to have a conversation with a 16-year-old at the high school. You know, You want to look for the business people. You want to look for people that are having conversations, and engage them. If you follow somebody, say, hey, I just followed you, love to connect. Maybe similarly to you would on LinkedIn or Facebook or some other space, but just finding relevant local people that appear to be sort of your socioeconomic target demographic for your business, or like I said, I always use like the dog breeder example. If you're a dog breeder, search in your zip code and maybe use the keyword dog. And once you get ingrained in that community, just like a BNI group, you become the real estate go-to expert in that community. So, I call it, there's the two ways to connect, as the real estate expert or as the passion expert. And those are also the two kinds of blogs that I think agents should have, because it just expands your possibility for connecting.
Perfect.
But, yeah,
now,
Twitter.com.
I'm getting a few people who disagree, and Christopher, you just came back with the last comment that's exactly where I was going to go on this. A lot of people are saying, whoa, hold on, follow everyone who follows me. That's a lot of people. How do I possibly keep up with that? Maya, when was the last time you sat down and actually just watched your stream go by? Right, okay, so I think that'll answer that question. I can't watch mine, and I don't have half the followers Maya has, because by the time I look at the screen, the tweet I was starting to read is 4 pages down.
Well, that's why you want to use tools. But let me preface that by saying it is not about quantity. It is about quality. If you're following people in your local market and people in your local community that you have potential ties to, and someone else in that area finds you and follows you, follow them back. I mean, before I follow anybody, I'll look at their bio, or I'll just look at their page and determine if there's a value, because my stream and my following has gotten so large that I literally lose track of my friends, and I lose track of things that are happening in my local community. I went to an event last week. They canceled it. And I'm sitting there, and I called the organizer, and she said, well, Maya, I tweeted you a bunch of times. And I said, sweetie, I'm so busy doing real estate that, I didn't even get to Twitter today. So if you need to reach me, call me. Don't rely upon this as something that you guarantee I will read. There's no urgency to Twitter unless you're following the real estate mentions and you want to jump on a potential buyer lead.
All right, so Maya, let's talk about some of these crazy symbols. Some of these people should know what they are. Really quickly, I'm looking at a tic-tac-toe board and the thing that's above the number 2 on my keyboard. What do those mean in the world of Twitter? 30 seconds to each one.
Okay.
And how do we use them?
Hashtag #. Essentially, you use that in front of a keyword. We'll say hashtag real estate. It just helps when you are searching. So if you do a search for hashtag real estate, then everything related, or a conference, hashtag rain camp, hashtag ActiveRain, hashtag IMSD. It just helps for you to search a topic and put them all into the same stream so you can follow along with the conversation, an event, or anything like that. So it just makes the search easier.
Okay, so that's the hashtag. What's that little crazy A with a circle around it? How do we use that on Twitter?
The @ well, in your email, we all know where that goes in the email. In Twitter, it is essentially what the back-end systems use to notify you that someone is replying to you. It's called the @reply. So it's interesting and confusing, and it would take more than 30 seconds to explain how it works in interactions and conversations. But essentially, if you want to talk to me, if you just type Maya Ari Guru, I won't see it. If you type @Maya Ari Guru, then Twitter knows to put it into my mentions column on my Twitter page, or else my social platform knows to put it into my mentions column. So it makes it easier to reach somebody, because it sort of tells the system you need to direct this message to someone so that it pops up in the right place.
And then what about a DM? I've got some people asking about that. What does DM mean? How do they use that?
A DM is essentially a private message, and using Twitter, you can send somebody a DM, and if you were typing it on text, it would D space username message up to the usual 140 characters. The problem is that if you type the wrong thing, and Sue Adler is guilty of DM fails all the time, the message may go public. So, DMs, I believe, should be used sparingly And if it's something that you don't want in the public domain, don't put it on a DM. Don't put it on Twitter. You know, there's some things that should be kept to email, and don't rely upon Twitter for business conversations, you know, and negotiations. It's not the right place for it at all. You know, you make the warm connection with people, and then you have to still take it face-to-face or on the phone at some point in time.
Let's talk about some of the tools, Maya. You've mentioned search.twitter.com a few times, so I would make sure everybody remembers that one as a tool to use. What other tools? I'm seeing a bunch of people saying, I've heard of this TweetDeck thing, or I've got this TweetDeck thing. What are some of the tools you recommend people should be using for Twitter?
TweetDeck is a great one. I started with TweetDeck, and then I actually switched to Hootsuite, and then I used another one called Seismic on my Windows phone. I like Hootsuite the best, and I actually pay for the professional or the premium version because it allows me to have multiple pages. It allows me to post to Facebook, to LinkedIn, to monitor all of the different social platforms on one program, and it's web-based, which I like about Hootsuite over TweetDeck at the time was that it was web-based. So if I was at work on my desktop versus at home on my laptop, I still had access to all of my things. So, you know, it's more of a cloud-based technology, which makes it easier to use. So Hootsuite is one word. It's Hootsuite. So like Office Suite, Hootsuite. You can get it for free, but I prefer to pay, I think, I don't know if it's $3.99 or $5.99 a month. And I can have a whole lot of accounts. And some of the clients I have, I manage their stuff as well. But what's great, too, is you can have up to 10 streams on the screen at one time. So if you want to have certain search terms for your local market or keywords you're watching for, you can put the searches into the Hootsuite with the hashtag or without, and then create the streams and columns on your Hootsuite page so you can monitor it. So it essentially goes back to the search.twitter.com through this little search box and then just pulls all the information for you. So it does make your life a lot easier because in a much quicker glance you can see things. And you can also scroll to stop the stream from moving if you want to read something. So, you know, and you can put your lists into it because that's useful too, is creating Twitter lists.
So do you categorize your followers then? So do you make groups and lists and all that stuff so you know when maybe your dog people are talking and when your real estate people are talking and when your, you know, movie fans are talking? How do you categorize all of your people?
Oh, absolutely. Well, you know, lists started out not necessarily what they are now, which is a way to group people of interest or people with a topic of discussion. You know, if you have a group of foodies that you're following, you might have a foodie list. Lists, when they first started, was more of, I'm putting you on a list, and it was sort of a social status thing. So I avoided making lists. So most of what I have was on my TweetDeck or on Hootsuite, but exactly like that. So if you're just starting out, start out by making lists because you also help promote people by having them on lists. So, you know, for me, Wilmington foodies, Wilmington restaurants, you know, Delaware dog lovers, things like that you can keep track of. And then even making your favorites column. You know, you could also have your clients, find your clients out there, hot clients, current clients, past clients, whatever, and monitor those. Because, you know, when you can go back and look at those streams and those people, you know, there you go.
So one of the keys, Maya, about Twitter, if I summed it up, I think a lot of people need to listen more. Would you agree? It's not just scream things to the wind, it's actually listen?
Oh, it's all about listening. We have 2 ears for a reason. Listen, help, promote others. I think Chris Brogan and Julian Smith had it in Trust Agents. It's like 12-1. If you promote others 12 times more than you promote yourself, that in turn will build you because there's that sense of obligation. If I promote you, Chad, you're then going to promote me. So, you know, and ask for help. But listening is essential. That's what it's all about. You're lurking and you're listening more than you are just blasting.
Okay, so I'm going to remind you we've got a lot more to go. Don't run away on me yet. But if you want to earn the Internet Marketing Specialist designation, it's imsd.net. You want to learn a lot more about Twitter. We cover it in the we cover it in the course there. Use the promo code TWEET so that you can do that. You can also call 619-500-IMSD. That's 619-500-IMSD. We've got a few people who will be near the phones for you. Now, let's get to some questions because I've got tons of people asking questions, Maya, that they want to know about with you. I've been saving a few of them. One here, I think you kind of answered that you were talking about when it comes to followers. Someone here said they had 2,000 followers. They decided to cut it down drastically because they can now listen to a select group of people a little better. You're recommending that we follow those that follow us and just take advantage of lists and tools like Hootsuite or TweetDeck to be able to really follow the people we want to follow, even if we're following everyone at the same time, if that made sense in English.
Well, yeah, that does, but I would say quality over quantity anytime. If somebody is not going to offer value, if they are a spam follower, if you look at them and they have no tweets and they've got 5,000 people they're following, it's not worth it. It just focus on your business and what you're doing. You have to have a business plan and strategy and keep to it. So having, for me, 25,000 people follow me, 20,000 I follow back, it's out of control. Even Chris Brogan was just basically unfollowing everybody from his 160,000 he followed or something to just get it down to a controllable amount to have a conversation because it's just gotten too big. So stay focused.
So we've talked etiquette. Would you follow other realtors and listen to what they're saying in your area?
Absolutely. I never understood why agents wouldn't want other agents or realtors to engage on their social platforms with them. I have lots of friends in my marketplace and I interact, and people say, well, what if they steal my clients? If you really have to worry about that, then you shouldn't be on social media. If you have to worry about somebody stealing your clients, then you're not doing a good job.
Okay. Now another one on the etiquette here is when you retweet. So let's say I have tweeted out something about, wow, amazing webinar with Maya, RE Guru, thank you for joining us. And you're going to go retweet what I've had. Would proper etiquette say you should retweet that and remove your name? Would proper etiquette say you should just mention me in a follow-up comment, or would you just retweet what I said as is and maybe add your own words to the beginning of it? What would be the proper way to have Twitter etiquette when someone mentions you and you want to respond?
Well, first of all, I would also tweet out, thank you, Chad Himes, for having me. It was fabulous. Love ActiveRain, love IMSJ. Gratitude to the attitude. But, yeah, no, I would probably retweet what you said with a comment, thank you, it was an honor. If I was trying to sort of self-promote, cross-promote it, and that's ideally what somebody would want to do. I don't necessarily feel the need to do that so much in my space, so I might just privately come back and say, thank you so much, it was awesome, I'd love to do it again. But, yes, the etiquette-wise, you should retweet something like that and add a comment if you kind of want to go for the little self-promotion thing. But no matter what, a reply directly to you with a thank you and a hashtag relating to, IMSD and ActiveRain would be appropriate.
So is it proper etiquette to edit a retweet?
It is proper etiquette to edit a retweet as long as you are not changing the substance of the message. And if I can add, you have no intonation or inflection on Twitter. So snarky doesn't always go well. Sarcastic doesn't go well. You might be in a great mood, but if someone else is in a bad mood, they're not necessarily going to read your message the same. So you have to be very careful when editing things from other people. You want to keep the same message and tone, and if you can't do it, then don't retweet it.
Yeah, the only thing I usually do when I edit is I might shorten. So if they've used the full word of you, I might shorten it down to just the letter U if I need to have more space for characters. That's the only way I will ever edit someone's original tweet. Now, Maya, you talked about spending some time on Twitter every day and throughout the day. What percentage of tweets, though, should be about business?
You know, I think that if you're only about business, you're not going to meet people. The key here is to be a personality and be a person and connect with people. And mentioning your business occasionally, I think, you know, 1 out of every 12 or 1 out of every 20 tweets should be that. Because if all you're doing is promoting your own business and talking about what you do, you're not going to be very interesting. This is about being a person and having a personality and having fun. So, you know, the business will come, but people get to know you, and that's where my business has come. Being me or a portion of me, because I'm very guarded in some things I do or won't do in the social spaces. But, you know, being a personality that people feel like they know, and then the occasional reminder of what you do for a living, but it's part of your bio, so they can find that out anytime they want, is more likely to get you business than if you're just constantly talking about real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that completely. Now, we're coming up to our time, and I want to respect everyone's time. So before I take 1 or 2 more questions here, here's what I want you to know. If you go to facebook.com/IMSDesignation, you can post your questions on our wall. I know Maya will be kind enough to check throughout the day, as will I, and we will continue to answer any of your questions about this that we can help you with. Also, I'd recommend jumping on Twitter and making sure you're following myself and Maya. You can find her at Maya RE Guru, as we've discussed, and you can find me. I got my name. It's Chad Himes. It's spelled H-Yams. I don't eat them. They are in my name, though. One more question. Yeah, go ahead, Maya.
One more thing to the follow back etiquette. I, by rule, if someone talks to me and sends me an @ I will follow them back. So, you know, if I don't follow you back, I apologize. I don't even get notifications of follows anymore. So.
There you go. There's so many of them. Now, one of the questions I got here, just to take it out, how do you send @ messages to a group of people? What if I want to send a message to you and to Bob and to, you know, you mentioned Sue Adler. What if I want to send a message to the 3 of you all at once? How do I go about doing that in a message?
You can put as many @ username separated by a space as you want in a message. You know, getting into the rules of how it works and who sees what, starting with @ can get a little complicated. I will put that up on a blog and send you info on that. If you want to share it with everybody who is here, I'll be happy to do that. But yeah, just put as many as you want. There's really no limit as long as it fits in the 140.
Okay, so I could say @ Maya RE Guru, @ Active Bob, @ whoever else I want, and then I could say, hey, great seeing you today. We talked about these people on the webinar, and mention all the different people that you talked about if I want to. It's not going to be a limit in that regard.
No, not at all. You know, and it's nice if you're having a conversation with someone and you think someone else might like it, you can do a CC space @ Maya RE Guru.
Perfect.
So, you know, chat.
So I could copy you on it.
Right.
Right. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, so Maya, I'm going to challenge you, and I did not give you any preparation on this. I'm also not going to count. But in 140 characters, sum up how everybody can use Twitter.
Connect, converse, convert, be real, be an agent.
There you go. Connect, converse, be real, be an agent, convert. Hopefully it was 140 characters. Maya, I really want to thank you for joining us. Next week for the ActiveRain University, we're talking Craigslist. So watch for it. If you didn't already register for it, go back to the blog, watch for what Bob's got coming, watch the Facebook pages, watch our Twitter handles. We'll get you some information on that. Maya, you rocked it. I think everybody here's got a much better handle on Twitter. I want to thank everyone who's joined us and wish you guys a fantastic Tuesday.